So who wants to be incinerated in a fireball for the sake of Israel? I sure don't.
After a train carrying coal derailed in North Carolina, it happened about 30 miles south of Raleigh. No one was hurt. An investigation is underway into the cause. And the suspects in the JFK terror plot, well, they were reportedly working with an Islamic extremist group that was based in Trinidad, spotlighting the possibility of an al-Qaeda presence in the Caribbean. Usually only think about it for vacations. Well, everyone's looking at it very differently today. Up until now, Islamic extremists in Trinidad and South America have focused their efforts internally. But is it possible that these local factions could be branching out? My guest today, former Virginia governor, Republican presidential candidate James Gilmore, and terrorism analyst Eric Stakelbeck. Gentlemen, thank you so much. You know, we learned a lot in the last 24 hours, first of all, about the vulnerability of these fuel lines. But I wanted to ask you, Eric, if I could start with you about this Islamic group within Trinidad. What do we know about them? How do they compare to al-Qaeda? And do they have any contact with al-Qaeda?
Right, Jamie. You know, there have been reports of Jamaat al-Muslimin, this group in Trinidad. There has been reports of them having links to al-Qaeda. They're really an interesting case, Jamie. They're kind of similar to the Nation of Islam here in the U.S., led by Louis Farrakhan, and then they have more of a black nationalist type ideology. At least 6 to 7% of Trinidad's population is Muslim. This group, Jamaat al-Muslimin, a lot of them are converts to Sunni Islam. They're involved in extortion, drug trafficking, murder for hire. They're almost like an organized gang in that respect. They're also big on racial strife in Trinidad. As I said, they are a black Muslim group. There's a lot of Muslims in Trinidad of East Indian origin. This group, Jamaat al-Muslimin, over the past 2 decades, has targeted them several times with racial violence. And most disturbingly, Jamie, back in 1990, this group, Jamaat al-Muslimin, was responsible for a coup attempt of the government in Trinidad. But it's interesting now to see them apparently extending their reach outside of the Caribbean, because up until now they've been mainly a localized type group.
Right. You know, Governor Gilmore, I wanted to ask you, because there's a lot of talk about the new measures for illegal immigrants coming in. We don't know that if Russell DeFreitas came in legally or illegally initially, but somehow he got U.S. citizenship despite his hate for our country, allegedly. Let me ask you if the new measure that's proposed that the president will soon receive, whether or not we would have learned more about him before he became a U.S. citizen.
Well, one could only hope, but there are some reports that the new measures would even require the issuing of documentation after a very short period of time, 24 or 48 hours, whether or not you get the information or not. There are a lot of problems with this immigration problem. I'm not for it. I think it has too much of the elements of amnesty connected with it, and it ignores the central problem, which is the border of the United States, north and south, are insecure, and you're going to continue to see more insecurity as a result of this. And then that leads you to 2 points. One, we're having plenty of discussions in the presidential campaign about the immigration issue, but virtually nothing about Homeland Security. Jamie,
are we doing enough, Governor? When you heard that these fuel lines are being secured, yet they felt, given the intimate knowledge DeFreitas apparently had about the inner workings of JFK that he targeted, he felt it was vulnerable enough, worth attacking, eventually going to seek explosives and funding. How concerned are you that we need to beef it up?
I'm very concerned about this, and it isn't just a matter of putting a guard on every pipeline or every bus or every airplane. The point is that the people of the United States have to begin to be prepared for the long crisis that's ahead of us. Until we get ourselves secure completely in the United States and get the American people ready for the potentiality of an attack, small or large, then we can't play the proper hand overseas. This is a big, long crisis that we're going to be in. It's going to require both work at home and in foreign policy in order to protect the people of the United States.
All right, Eric Stakelbeck, thanks for telling us more about this group. We understand they can be very violent. We understand they're more extensive than we could have imagined. We understand they had a connection to this plot. Good to know. Governor Gilmore, always good to see you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, James.
Well, coming up on Fox News Live, going out with a bang, the end of an era, we're going to show you, and you'll hear, the best video from this spectacle. It's coming up. She's gonna go. Out with the not so old, in with the new in North Carolina. 550 pounds of TNT leveling the Charlotte Coliseum with a bang. It stood for less than 20 years. It was pretty new, once home to the Charlotte Hornets NBA franchise. But you know what? They left town because they said the Coliseum wasn't exactly state-of-the-art. And after nearly 100 tons of Twisted Steel are cleared, residents, they're going to get a new park and a housing development.